Hello and welcome. Day 299, 365 days towards racial change. Coming up, we're on a downhill slope now and just got to wrap up relatively a handful of videos compared to uh, the journey we've been on for now 299 days. That's incredible. If you were intimately involved with where I'm coming from in life, that's a pretty impressive thing. Um, I thank my God, the internet, Google, of course. And shout out to a lot of resources that make this episode possible. We're here to talk about Black issues. If you're new, welcome back. Consistent watchers of the program. Black issues, Black in America, white in America. We talk about white folks as well. Try not to be too judgmental and pejorative. Most of the things we are looking at is the root causes of our various respective stations in life. White people have in general, a privileged um, orientation in the American landscape. Black people have a generally disadvantaged orientation in the American landscape, and that we can look at, just go all the way back to the beginning of this nation, where slavery, forced labor, coerced labor, free labor, was an imperative to compete internationally, to build the nation and all that. But unfortunately, as white people have it in their head that they're supposed to be in that position, stay in that position at any cost, right? And that they've thrown a lot of people under the bus, so to speak, economically, politically, morally, right? And um, monopolized life, right? And it's not just the boundaries of the 50 United States of America. This white influence has blossomed into the world. We as a nation hold incredible sway, and it's the white folks making this thing go and work, and I don't know, oh maintaining some of the world's shortcomings. Whatever benefits, whatever's going to be profitable. Certain sectors in America will not tolerate uh, being dissolved or disillusioned. We need to manufacture weapons, so we need conflict to continue and threats to be, um, you know, to continue in the world. So we have a reason to make uh, bombs and send men and women over there to protect our interests and stuff, right? We got to protect the oil, right? Did you know America has its own oil? We do, really. We want to suck the life. It's this whole gigantic system that's going on, right? So, but we need not worry. This isn't the forum to really get that far out there. What my mission is to just have this grassroots little information campaign to nudge anybody, white, black, gray, red, into a position to change at least their outlook, maybe not even their behavior. Don't change a thing. just change what's in here. At least have a truth in your mind about the reality of America, this nation, right? So, and the things I bring out from Dr. Anderson, maybe current events and stuff, are relatively fact check. We can depend on these things. That's why I deal with the history, right? If you're, I noticed interesting two things I'll say about white people is they're uncomfortable in their privileged position. Some of them, I've noticed that, but two, there are a lot of white people interested in the social justice aspect that that are not, well, they're realistic. Some of the white people, some of the white people I know and are friends with, whom I love, are, have an interest in learning about this disparity in America along the lines of skin color. Big, huge interest. A lot of white people are interested in that, and not to use it as a force to take more advantage, but how find some ways to bring some equity into the system. Right, long way to go, a long way to go, and the way America is structured intentionally, it's really hard. It's dialectical. What I mean by dialectical is you have your thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? Kind of uh, Plato's, you read Plato's dialogues and some of that's philosophical configuration to growth is there, right? You have your idea, your opposition, and bring those two together in a synthesis, and there's some elevation of thought. Well, but it's not easy. Um, uh, and in America, right, it's like it took me over 50 years, right? See this? It took me over 50 years to uh, get to some truth realizations. But with the truth, the opposition had already had some momentum into falsehood and negativity, and so that had to get addressed. Now my energy and my mind are coming together as a synthesis, and I'm elevated, but it's only just a little touch, a little movement of the dial. And I think that's it for everyone in America. Trust me on something else. I don't have proof what I'm about to say, but I believe it's true because of some of the academic settings and the things I've been exposed to. Is that there are great minds, men and women, scientists, scholars, who advise, who educate power brokers, people in power, you know, indicators, right? I mean, you take census and you look at economics and all this stuff. Um, a good, maybe a proof would be the Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve, they keep, because of some of our financial difficulties, Great Depression, and then recession through the Obama years, brought on by previous administrations. Obama fixed it, right? The black man came along, you know, we were always carrying water for the white folks, so the black man came along. So if it really failed, there's your scapegoat. Anyway, Federal Reserve as an example of scholars, scientists looking at trends and stuff. So the Federal Reserve is one of those organizations, white power, that's going to keep their finger on the pulse of the economics, right? So we don't feverishly run it out, or we don't drag it so much, but it just they adjust, make their scientific adjustments so that things at least keep moving, right? And keep moving in the favor of the power group. Uh, Same thing in politics, war, food production, labor. There are men and women with studied minds who uh, who are almost in the employ, who counsel the decision makers on this, right? And so it keeps people locked in. It's hard to get out of your present position. So there's a message there for Black folks, like the earlier we can get Black folks educated, moving in the right direction, maintaining lifestyles that are devoid of some of the pitfalls that can happen, the better chance we have. And there's a lot going on. Now, for Black folks, which is, let's bring it back to why we're here. Black folks are all kind of damaged goods in the American landscape. We, because of our personal Holocaust over hundreds of years and continues today, it's this lingering spirit, right? It's one of those things. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, you remember Frodo got stabbed uh, 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 by one of those warlocks, like first episode in their journey, right? And the the nature of this weapon with which he was struck left a wound that would never heal, right? And that's the Black folks. We have a wound. I think it can heal, but it's a long way off in healing because the power group doesn't care, doesn't want it to heal. They did their dirt and their trash on the disadvantaged group and just left the disadvantaged group scrambling and hobbled. But the disadvantaged group has, at least we've got more choices we can make. We can make different choices. We can do different things with our children where we can stop perpetuating so much dysfunctions that a lot of the things heaped on us, conditioned upon us, that keep us in this locked in to this position in which we find ourselves, disunified, um, sometimes problematic at best, and reaching out to one another. Right, I've got my own issues, personal issues that I'm going to address maybe next time I see my counselor. So it's a lot to work on. I'm inspired. Let's get to it. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claud Anderson. He articulates these, what I've been stuttering and hemming and hawing about. He has a clear message, and I encourage you to go find him. He's here on YouTube. I read 3 of his books that inform our discussions. We just got finished. I wanted to make sure I wrapped up Uncle Tom's Cabin. So we did that. We made a review or something before this project is over. But right now we're getting into Dr. Anderson's work. 2020 election is on the way. Iowa caucus is front lines in the news cycle. So we got to hold on. So we wanted to finish up Uncle Tom's Cabin. Dr. Anderson's, I've read 3 of his works. He's written a bunch of books. I'm writing some stuff too. I mean, it's going to get done. A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice. We're in this text today, part 2 from our last time. Exploitation and Minstrelization of Black Music, Entertainment, and Powernomics. This is Dr. Anderson's national plan to empower Black America. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com. Behind me, you'll see the hashtag #us2 symbol where Black women are coming together, having their conversation, community, and support. Check out Blagging Up, BLAGGENUF, kind of a Black Facebook experience. If you've got a business mind, entrepreneurial spirit, go check out Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School. You can find him here on YouTube and at the website, theblackbusinessschool.com, I believe. And like I said, I want to keep plugging this. I don't know what we're going to do, but this is an important text. A lot of talking points. It's a fictional account of slave life in America, but it is informed, as we found out at the end of that study, it's informed by factual accounts, eyewitness, or sometimes word of mouth accounts of slave life in America. All right, part 2 of the exploitation and minstrelization of Black music, Black entertainment. We talked about blackface yesterday and how white folks go, they see this charismatic, either a young child or go to some place, some niche place where blacks are gathering and entertaining one another, and the white folks bring that to white audiences and make a lot of money, make a living off of what they're copying, right? And the black folks don't get any or very little compensation for that. So over time, it's taken time, right? And you've got your superstar outliers, the Jackson family, all our rap and hip hop people, R&B folks um, are considered and all that, and you've got all these white folks, Taylor Swift, Eminem, uh, like Vanilla Ice way back. um, I'm a guitar player, so I gravitate. I like to hear a lot of great guitar, and it's all these white dudes tearing it up and ripping it up. But it's because of black man. Some black men got the blues and put the soul and the rhythm in there and all that. So they could paint it, the idea that, look, this popular music, entertainment, a lot of it as borrowed or stolen from black charisma, soul. It's the swing and the rhythm, right? That comes from, that has African roots, right? And I even had to walk back um, some of what I said about Africa being bred out. Uh, what remains of Africa with black folks is the rhythm, is the soul, bending notes and being so creative in that fashion, right? We don't have language, religion, culture per se, but they couldn't get rid of that music. It's because it's right here. You can't get rid of it. Oh, all right, part two. So now we fast forward to the 50s, right? We've come through and the doors are starting to open for black people to entertain in front of white audiences. You know, have to break down doors. There was a period where black people went to Europe and found success there. Europe had its slavery stuff, and there's racism all over the world. But Europe was is kind of ahead of the United States in integration, inclusion, and stuff like that. So anyway, the blacks people found more of a audience abroad and success abroad. So they went that in the wake, white big band emerged from that um, that migration for a time. But then the 50s, doors opened up. Blacks are entertaining in front of white audiences now, and um, it might sound good, but all it did, it gave blacks more exposure, but it just sped up white success. Elvis Presley, Bill Haley, and the Comets, as far as pop rock music went, Rock Around the Clock and things like that, all of Elvis stuff. You listen to some of these bands, even some of my favorite bands from abroad, they're playing blues just cranked up on distorted guitars and heavy drums and stuff like that. But it may be original, but the whole influence is the soul, the rhythm of black folks. They're mimicking, all right, and the white affluent crowd that they don't have their own, so they just mimic what white folks are doing, what black folks are doing. I'll put some of the groups, my groups, Led Zeppelin, AC/DC, Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Although Stevie Ray Vaughan, he does give a shout out more to Hendrix, maybe Clapton early in his career. But many of these groups are just packing theaters and not giving credit where credit is due. Um, that's it's very sad. I'm so counting on some reciprocity in the afterlife. I'll take my lumps because I'm not innocent, but I sure hope that there's some comeuppance and things made right on the other side of this mortal coil. Um, this is a pattern with white folks, right? The music and all this, it's a pattern that that's all over the place with white folks. White folks are masters at monopolization, um, being exclusive with business models, so they know how to get the oil out from out of the ground. If you know what I mean. I saw a movie that really illustrated this point. I forget. It's a great movie. A guy, he was a oil guy. His son was deaf and stuff like that. But he's like he's the person who knows how to get the resource out of the ground, monopolize it, capitalize on it, and make money. But the landowners don't know all of the pieces to make that a successful venture, right? The landowners can they give they give them rights to the land and stuff like that. There's even a part in this movie, I wish I could remember right now, where there's a holdout, right? The guy's holding out from letting this oil uh, baron drill on his land, but there was oil like next to his land, and the oil guy, he said, well, the oil guy, the guy that was holding out, he eventually changed his mind. He said, okay, I'll sell you the rights to my land so you can drill the oil. Oil guy said, look, I drilled sideways. I already sucked all your oil out of there, right? And this is the thing. Know this about business. If you didn't know this, uh, oh, when it comes to like a monopoly and all that, I think we're going to talk about this in a couple days. Business law, so to speak, as far as ownership, it is with a space. I found this out a couple years ago. People, they own the land, right? Of course, that you see that they're building buildings on, but there's ownership under the ground and there's ownership up in the air. Business law. And a lot of people don't know that, but it's real. Uh, so talking about entertainment and music and all this is uh, this is just the model uh, for the more of the perpetuation of white control and right, white people having a hand in something. As far as like producing popular music, when I went to school taking some music business courses, the instructor would say, well, your music has to go through some organization in New York. Like you don't get music out unless these crooks in New York kind of sign off on it, and it's got to be certain length and all this, and it's like they own the music industry. Crazy, crazy. That's why I'm glad for the internet. Is internet took a lot of that control out of these people's hands. I just want to sit back and few pen strokes and make millions of dollars. Oh boy, I'm so burned up about this control. Uh, you know, we saw this same thing in actually Uncle Tom's Cabin, right? George Harris, early on in the book, his creativity used to increase white man's business, but he's just a slave, and his master now has rights to what his slave created and gets that. I wrote an extensive program for an organization that I was once a part of, and well, I think we know that whatever you create inside of somebody's business belongs to the business, right? That you don't it's not yours. Although, but this thing, it didn't make money, so I think getting any attention was just something to help the process. But had this particular firm capitalize, monetize that program that I wrote, computer program, I'd have no, I'd have no rights to that, right? I just created that, and I'm just out of game unless they decided to help me and allow me to participate. So these 2 days exploitation of black music, creativity. It's about the ongoing. This is just one facet of the the core issue of how the power group appropriates black creativity, um, the way, the willingness of blacks to participate. I always wonder how many companies or activities we see in the world are from the mind of slaves, for creativity of black folks, but just that they created it, white folks packaged it and marketed it, made millions, and just sit back and watch it roll in. And the slave, you know, they get an attaboy, pat on the back. We need to get more of that. Listen, black creativity is one of the earth's most exploited resource, I think, now that I've done a little bit of this uh, study here. Winston Marsalis, he talks about, the slave had to be creative. I'm sure it's creative in Africa, but just think being suddenly teleported to a strange land, strange food, strange speech. You got to be creative to survive that. Uh, so we got a long way to go. I'm over time, so our time is short, but keep thinking, keep learning. Uh, it'll plant a seed in yourself about the truth of what's going on in this country, or what is um, how you may want to see life better on this planet. I'm Tomlin's Nyback. This is day 299 out of the way, 365 days towards racial change. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.